Many of you are probably familiar with the Boettcher Institute, which contributed to the advancement of biomedical research in Colorado for over 80 years. In 2008, the Boettcher Institute became part of the University of Colorado and is now known as the Boettcher Center. The stewardship of the assets for the related but separate Boettcher Foundation have been entrusted to the Boettcher Foundation. Through an innovative agreement between the Boettcher Foundation and the Boettcher Foundation, the Boettcher Foundation's Boettcher Biomedical Research Program was created to support the work of promising early career investigators in the biomedical sciences in Colorado. It's now with great pleasure that I introduce the inaugural class of Boettcher investigators. I'd ask that each investigator stand at the table when they're being introduced. I'll go through all of them fairly quickly, and then we'll have a round of applause for all at the end. So our first Boettcher investigator I want to introduce is Xiaodong Di. He's assistant professor, right over there, over here to my left, to your right, assistant professor of immunology and natural Jewish health, is seeking to develop new treatments for chronic beryllium disease, which occurs from long-term exposure to beryllium, common in minors. Dr. D's efforts in the treatment and development draw on the knowledge that people with certain genetic variations in the HLA-DP subregion are much more likely to suffer from the disease than those without the variation given the same level of exposure. Our next investigator is Robin Dowell, an assistant professor of molecular, cell, and development biology at CU Boulder. She seeks to draw on her computer science expertise to bring greater utility to the ability to sequence the genome. Specifically, Dr. Dowell seeks to use computational models to predict which parts of the genome will be transcribed. Gidon Felsen is our next winner, an assistant professor of physiology and biophysics at the CU Anschutz Medical Center campus. He investigates how the nervous system controls movement. His research will focus on existing and inhibiting specific brain regions in both normal and Parkinsonian mice to evaluate the differences. Paul Jedlicka, assistant professor of pathology at CU Anschutz Medical Campus, is working to improve the treatment of Ewing sarcoma, one of the most common cancers of the bone and soft tissue in children and young adults. Dr. Jedlicka is evaluating specific microRNAs that are under or overrepresented in disease cells leading to their cancerous behavior. Keith Neves, assistant professor of chemical engineering at Colorado School of Mines, is focused on the understanding of the mechanisms of blood clotting. Dr. Neves will use the grant money to work on new anticoagulant strategies, hoping to find ways to generate treatment that can still prevent the clots that cause strokes without increasing bleeding risk as much as current options do. Lastly, Melissa Reynolds, assistant professor of chemistry at Colorado State University, is seeking to make implantable devices, specifically those for cardiovascular diseases, more biocompatible. Dr. Reynolds is focused on generating devices that release nitric oxide at similar levels to tissues within the body, preventing clotting. I'd love to have a round of applause for these investigators.